And we're live. Greetings, mortals, peers, and queers, to another episode of Late Night Serotonin. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of COVID, its myths, its lies, and the consequences of Republican misinformation. With that, I'm going to go ahead and let my guests introduce themselves. Astro, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Astrofeminist. I'm primarily a TikTok creator. As my name implies, I post a lot of pro-feminine content, and I do a little leftist content here and there as well. So if that seems like something you're interested in, check me out on TikTok at Astrofeminist.
All right, wonderful. And for those who may be joining us for the first time, I am Lady Avalon, the host of Serotonin Studios. I'm a transgender, lesbian, socialist, polyamorous, disabled atheist, and I am going to open up the show with today's opening monologue. Folks, I want to turn off this so I can show this. I want to read this for you, folks. This is from an account called Conservative Self-Owns. And here's this lady who says this. I literally just had the Rona for 3 days. It seriously was no big freaking deal. No jabbed, and now have natural immunity. I didn't even get a test. My hubs and I didn't bother. If this was the latest variant, it's the one to catch. Peace. Fuck Joe Biden and the China virus. I can always remove my tinfoil hat. Can you remove your spiked proteins? Now, I understand that the natural reaction to many of us would be mockery, disdain, try and correct the misinformation. But I think the key piece of information is lied in this next panel. Pray for me if you pray. Please. Scared. And a photo of this woman breathing and fighting for her damn life. This, folks, is what I want to center my monologue on tonight. This is what I think is the consequence of Republican lies. People are given misinformation. Donald Trump famously lied about the coronavirus at basically every single step, saying first that it was no big deal, second that it would die it with the heat in fucking July, which didn't happen, that you could beat it with like fucking bleach and hydroxychloroquine and many other sham medicines. Anything to not admit that he was handling it badly, and that he was not taking necessary steps, and that a lot of the safety guidelines that should have been there to protect us were things that he gutted because Obama's the one who put him in place, and he's got a little ego about that. Republicans then took Donald Trump's flagrant lies and they ran with them. Didn't correct them, they ran with them. And now we live in a world full to the brim with falsehoods and myths and misinformations about the coronavirus. We've had so many people die or get injured, or now we have long COVID to deal with, people who've gotten COVID and then the symptoms just stay with them in their body and affect them for long periods of time. My mom was one of the people who got long COVID. Her lungs are described as sticky by her doctors. And it's quite frightening because my family has got a lot of medical issues. Most of us are immunocompromised, my mom included. It is dangerous for us to be rolling that dice, and yet that dice was rolled for us by inconsiderate people around the country, around the world. All because of one man's endless stream of lies and his inability to look weak or that something might go wrong, therefore always pretend as if he's got it under control, even when it is so obvious that he doesn't. Tonight we're going to go over a series of myths and corrections to those myths to try and get the information out there, because this is such a serious topic, because I think at this point everyone knows someone who has had COVID, had long COVID, or unfortunately someone who's died of COVID. And our thoughts and prayers are with those people. I cannot bring them back to life. I cannot heal any of the damages that COVID has done to anyone's bodies. All I can do is speak into a microphone and get the right information out there as best as possible. And so that is what I want to dedicate today's show to doing, because it is quite frightening. I was lucky enough. I'm young. I'm healthy. I got COVID and it steamrolled me. I got it back in January of 2021, and it steamrolled me. I could barely move for like 2 weeks. Um, I struggled to get out of bed. Running up and down the stairs left me out of breath. It was awful. But I'm not immunocompromised in the same way that the rest of my family was. And I was lucky enough to be able to sequester myself away from everyone for those quarantine period. Not everyone's so lucky. Not everyone has that ability. And a lot of people are fully unwilling to do that. The bare minimum for preventing COVID is things like wearing a mask or getting your flu shot or getting the COVID shot, getting your booster shots. I've gotten my shots, all of them. I hope people who maybe disagree with me politically will hopefully listen in to the rest of this show and listen in as we go piece by piece through common myths and their information and their corrections. We have citations and sources for all of them, and we'll shout those out as we go through. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up our quick little document. Starting with, the woman talked about how, can you remove your spiked proteins? Let's start with that. Myth of COVID-19. Can it alter my DNA? Astrofeminist, would you retort?
So the vaccines don't alter or interact with your DNA at all. They don't actually, or what is in the vaccine doesn't actually enter the nucleus of our cells. It does go into our cells, but it doesn't enter the nucleus, which is where our DNA is. Both messenger RNA or messenger RNA, which is mRNA, and viral vector COVID-19 vaccines work by delivering the genetic material, which is basically like the instructions to start building the protection against the COVID-19 virus. And the body will produce like an immuno response that discards the vaccine ingredients altogether. So basically, it doesn't even interact with your DNA at all. It just pretty much gives your cells the instructions on what they need to do to fight off the virus when it's presented.
All right, wonderful. Myth: the mRNA vaccine is not considered a vaccine.
Okay, this one kind of blows my mind because mRNA has been used for quite a while. A lot of women have to have the mRNA vaccine in the event of an abortion or if they have a miscarriage. So this technology isn't necessarily like new as relatively, but basically the research on it has been underway for several decades now, and it's very safe to use. There's lots of data to support that, and actually a lot of this information is coming straight from the CDC website, so take that as you will. They don't contain the live virus. The mRNA doesn't. Instead, it works by teaching the cells to make that spiked protein that can detect the virus and help expel it from, or help your body fight it. So.
Okay. Well, what about, you talked about the CDC, all events reported to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, known as VAERS, are caused by vaccination.
Okay, so anybody can, if you go to the VAERS website, you can just fill out and pretty much say anything you want. You can say the COVID vaccine killed my dog. Like, you can pretty much submit whatever you want on that. Anyone can report events to VAERS, even if it's not necessarily linked to the vaccine specifically. The data from VAERS can't be used to make an accurate assumption on whether or not the vaccine is actually causing these issues. Some of the VAERS reports can contain information that's incomplete, coincidental, inaccurate, and unverified. So there's really, no way of knowing which ones are necessarily accurate and which ones are just kind of false flags.
Okay. Myth. The vaccine does not prevent transmission or infection.
Okay, so there is no vaccine that's 100% fully foolproof. And when you're fully vaccinated, it just means you've completed the entire series of having your first rounds and then having your boosters. So again, none offer 100% protection, but it definitely lowers your chances of getting it and transmitting it. And there's lots of data to support this. The source that I brought up was from the Cleveland Clinic. They go into great detail on how the vaccine itself works and the rates at which it diminishes transmission and infection.
All right. Myth. The vaccine does not prevent transmission or infection.
I think we just did that one.
Oh, sorry. I can't read. Sorry. The vaccination is causing an uptick in COVID deaths.
Okay, this one's probably my favorite because this is a prime example of correlation causation fallacy. While yes, technically there are more deaths from those who are vaccinated, the majority of people in the United States are vaccinated. So let's say 100% of people in the United States were vaccinated. That means 100% of the deaths would be those who were vaccinated. This doesn't necessarily mean that the vaccine is deadly or is ineffective. So while they do make up the majority of the population, it's 79% to be exact. The latest CDC data shows that vaccinated people also now. Oh, sorry, hold on. When you adjust for the populations, the unvaccinated are the ones that are dying more frequently, but you have to adjust for that population. You can't just look at the raw numbers.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about how wearing a cloth mask is of no use?
So this, again, is a myth. The 2019 novel coronavirus, it's mainly spread through viral droplets I'm sorry, my child's being really loud. It's spread through viral droplets that are breathed in and out of people's nose or mouths. So cloth masks create a physical barrier that catch those droplets and really diminish that transmission, even though they aren't necessarily like the N95, mask.
Okay. Adjusting an audio level real quick. All right. What about natural immunity being better than being vaccinated?
So there's several studies on the effectiveness of these of natural immunity and how those that have gotten the coronavirus previously are 2 times more likely to get it again if they're not vaccinated. So really this idea of natural immunity doesn't necessarily exist, and the only real way to lower your chances of getting coronavirus or its variants are to get the appropriate vaccinations. There was actually 2 studies on that from one from the CDC, and then one was reduced risk of reinfection with SARS-CoV-2 after COVID-19 vaccination. So those people that didn't have the vaccination were more than 2 times more likely to be reinfected.
All right. What about the myth that COVID was man-made?
So technically, there are 2 theories behind this. There is the theory that it jumped from animals to humans, which is the highly presented and accepted theory. But then there also is technically one that it was man-made in a lab. However, there is no evidence to support that claim. So the World Health Organization and one of the sources I got was from GoodRx, which is, I think, a pretty reasonable pharmaceutical source for medical information. They both suggest that it was a naturally occurring virus, that as many illnesses that affect humans come from, it was from animals and then it transmitted to humans.
Okay. And myth, the lockdowns were never effective.
Okay, again, there's a lot of research on this, and by themselves necessarily, they may not have been affected like on their own. However, when they are used in conjunction with um, other safety measures like wearing a mask, like social distancing, they were proven to be very effective. And that was done. There were two studies, both done on localized and on international scales.
Okay. And that is all of our myths for today. Very good. Thank you. Today will be a bit of a shorter episode. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experience with COVID? You know, the struggles and strifes that may have occurred as this pandemic drags on and on year after year.
Absolutely. We know that there's been over 1 million deaths that have occurred from this. That's a really big number. You know, there's just a lot that's happening with this virus, and it's still not over. I think it's really important to stress that it's still important to wear your mask when you're going out in public. And interacting with people, and to mind your social distancing, and to even, maybe not so far as to say self quarantine, but if you don't have to go out, maybe don't. Because we do have to keep in mind that a lot of people can't be vaccinated. As you said, your family is immunocompromised, or some members of your family have different degrees of immunocompromisation. So we have to keep that in mind, that when we go out, we don't know the state of anybody that we may come in contact with. So we have to ensure that we wouldn't want to inadvertently infect somebody and possibly lead to their death. We're seeing a lot of this with older individuals who do have a weakened immune system, and even there's I'm not necessarily sure if there's like a link between the COVID infection and the different variants of COVID and the new strain of diseases that's affecting children. But I do think it is just important to keep in mind that these viruses are no joke, and that we really need to, do our part.
And I think that is a good note to hit on, folks. We all got to do our part. We live in our civilization. We live with our neighbors. We live with friends and family. And we live with the people who live in our cities, in our countries, in our towns, and our neighborhoods. If you care about them, then that should motivate you to be doing the bare minimum. We do this in other instances, washing your hands, keeping yourself, neat and tidy for public spaces. This has just become a new level, level of keeping up for the public, for caring about other people. From the elderly to the immunocompromised. I've got a little brother who's immunocompromised, and so we all have to be really careful. We all have to be really mindful. I work, out amongst the public. The rest of my family works out amongst the public. We can't always afford, to be dodging every single event that might have a COVID person, or someone who's been in close contact with someone with COVID, because there are, I don't want to curse because we might get demonetized, but there's rude people who won't tell other people, oh yeah, my sibling, my friend, my girlfriend, whatever, they had COVID, and I've been like around them all week, and also now I'm here at this party, at this gathering, at this company meeting, whatever, and now everyone's at risk. And that, that really puts people I care about in danger. That puts people everyone else cares about in danger. So please just be mindful, and don't give in so easily to the misinformation that is so widely out there. Do trust experts in their relevant fields. I wouldn't ask, we're talking about a subject that has to deal with virology, right? But so you wouldn't ask a dentist, their opinion on a subject of virology. So don't be fooled when someone who has a doctorate in like elbows goes and talks about COVID. Listen to the experts in their field, the virologists from the CDC, to the World Health Organization. And I think I'll leave it there for tonight. With that, I encourage you all to like and follow the stream. We'll be here every week, as well as my daily show. You can find my guest down below, and I'll give them one more chance to shout themselves out before we end. And folks, stay safe out there. Astro, see us out.
Yeah, I just have a few quick closing comments. The information is there. I want to be clear. Like, I really don't have a background in medicine. I'm an engineer, but I trust the people in my field. I trust the experts in my field when it comes to engineering, and I think people kind of do the same. But I'm not sure why, when it comes to medicine and medical research, that it's so up for question and so up for debate. And at this point, just the immense amount of data that is out there, the information, how easily accessible it is. Even on TikTok videos about COVID, it'll have a little banner at the bottom that you can click on, and you can read information from the CDC or from the Cleveland Health Clinic or Mayo Clinic, or all of these very credible institutions that have provided us accurate data when it comes to medical topics. They have the information about COVID for people to read. It's accessible, it's out there. If people are denying this, are arguing this, I think it's anti-intellectualism at this point. But that's pretty much all I have to say on that. My name is Astrofeminist. I'm a feminist creator on TikTok, but also I kind of post a few left-leaning videos now and then. So if that's something you're interested in, go check me out. And if you want to debate, hit me up.
All right. And with that, we're going to end today's show, folks. Have a good night, and I wish you all a good evening. Bye.